Hello and welcome to Minerals, Rocks, and Fossil Talks. I'm your paleo teacher, Jen, and it's time for Throwback Thursday. Goniatites are an order of ammonites that appeared during the early Devonian and thrived until their extinction at the end of the Permian period. Goniatites are much more abundant in species and sediments that represent epicontinental seas than they are in those that represent the open ocean. So you're more likely to find them in the light blue zones than you would in the dark blue zones. Within these inland seas, Goniatites' greatest abundance and diversity appears to have been achieved in deeper offshore and basinal environments rather than in nearshore environments. So you're not going to find them right off the beach. You would have had to swim a bit before you found them. And they seem to occur mostly in areas which at the time would have been tropical to subtropical. Almost any fossil-bearing limestone or shale from inland seas of the late Paleozoic, tropics or subtropics of North America, Europe, North Africa, and Australasia will have them, and they are used as index fossils in age determination and stratigraphic correlation. They were named by Wilhelm de Haan, a marine biologist, in 1825. And let me tell you, apparently there's some super famous artists of the same name, and it was really hard finding this guy because of this artist. I'm sure he's great, but man, you're getting in the way. Goniatites belong in the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Mollusca, the class Cephalopoda, and the subclass Ammonoidea. They are distant relatives of the modern nautilus. So all Goniatites possessed an external shell, which is divided internally into chambers filled with gas, giving it buoyancy during the life of the animal. So those chambers would have looked like this. You can see the individual chambers. This is not a Goniatite ammonite. This is an ammonitic ammonoid. So anyway, but the anatomy is fairly similar. Now, there was an open chamber, which has been kind of cut off in this specimen here, but that open chamber at the front of the shell provided living space for the animal with access to open water through a ventral siphuncle. So that ventral would have been along the bottom, and it would have been a tube that ran through the whole shell, would have curved through the whole thing, getting water in and out of the animal. The general morphology and habit of Goniatites was probably similar to that of their later relatives, the ammonites. Being free-swimming and possessing a head with two well-developed eyes and tentacles or arms, whatever you want to call them. And you can see right here the siphuncle coming out as well. Goniatite shells are small to medium in size, almost always less than 15 centimeters or about 5.9 inches in diameter, and often smaller than 5 centimeters or 2 inches in diameter. So they're not very big. The shell is always planispirally coiled, so coiled up like that. Unlike those of Mesozoic ammonites, in which some are just bizarre, and I think I did do a video on ammonites, so if you want to see some of the funky things ammonites did, check that one out, because seriously, some of them look like freaking trombones. It's insane. Goniatid, I can read, I promise, shells vary in form from thinly discoidal to broadly globular, and may be smooth or distinctly ornamented. Their shape suggests that they weren't great swimmers, as a lot of them seem to be. So these thin walls that are in between each of those chambers are called septa, and as the Goniatite grew, its body would move forward through the shell, and it would secrete a septa behind it, thereby adding new chambers to the shell. The sutures or suture lines are visible as a series of narrow or wavy lines on the surface of the shell. On this particular one, because it is an ammonite, they're really, really fancy. So the ones on this shell look like the bottom one here, the ammonitic suture. Our Goniatites would have had the Goniatic suture. And so they would have looked a bit like smooth saddles and lobes. That's where the name comes from, is from that suture pattern. Not all Goniatites had that suture pattern. Sometimes they could have a serratitic suture, so the one just below it, or even a nautiloid suture. But most of them would have had the Goniatic suture, which is where they would have gotten their name. Fun fact. Well, thanks for coming to today's lesson, and make sure you tune in tomorrow to go on a field trip to Mill Creek Canyon, where we're going to go look for some Permian-aged rocks and see if there's anything cool in them. And even if there's nothing cool in them, the rocks themselves are pretty cool. So, come on a field trip with me, and I will fossilize you later.